What's up, guys? It is time once again to go all in on a Mythic Legions wave because, I mean, let's be honest, it has been a very, very long journey since the Illythia wave went up for pre-order. It's been, what, 20 months? It was January-ish of 2021 that I put my order in, and I have been eagerly impatiently awaiting finally getting my order. So we're going to jump in and take a look at the big bad herself. We're going to go all in and take a look at Illythia as well as her horse. So we're going to do both, just like I did Illythia and Aethon when Mythic Legion's Illythia wave came out. So we've got Illythia up first in this video, and we've got her here in the deluxe style packaging because she comes with just so much stuff. So she gets that sort of double wide treatment. You've got your figure there in the big window, all of her stuff, faction card, her faction on one side. Here you've got her portrait, her bio on the other, and then the back of the box gives us cross-sell for the wave, as well as that full updated artwork at the time for Illythia wave anyway, with the Horsemen in shadow and, out of shadow as well. Now we're also taking a look at the horse. So we're taking a look at PHOBUS in this review as well. We're going to get her and her demon horse, her vampiric horse, which just looks pretty gnarly. So we've got this thing here in our normal style packaging for the horses. So of course that is to say it's a big old box. You've got her there in the window. You've got some tremendous artwork that wraps around this whole package, showcasing a lot of the larger elements of this wave. You've got, we've got the moose on one side, we've got PHOBUS on the other, and we've got PHOBUS's portrait faction card. We've got the whole deal on the back with the larger spread of artwork and deluxe cross-sell, as well as our Mythos write-up. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Mythic Legion's Illythia wave. Well, Illythia and her horse, PHOBUS. So we've gotten the second of our 4 horsemen finally. We've already got Poxus on pre-order, and then Necronominus is coming at some point. But Illythia is the focus now, so we are very vampire heavy in this wave, and of course she is our vampire queen. We are going to take a look at both of these figures here in this video. We're going to take a look at Illythia first because she's the star, and then we will get to our horse. So Illythia is a 2.0 style figure. So for the uninitiated, that means it is a slightly smaller, more slender figure, and they have an added diaphragm cut for articulation. They're still very much in line with the rest of the line, but this is the second style of body that was created in the Advent of Decay 2.0 wave. So she's a little bit on the smaller side, which is normal for a female figure, but she's got this thing that sits on her head, and she might be one of the tallest figures in the line because of that. So there's a lot of familiarity here, but she is, of course, very, very new territory beyond that. So let's see what she can do, see how she moves around. She's pretty normal in terms of a 2.0 figure. So we've got a head that is kind of locked, and you can probably see why. She has a head of hair that goes, it goes down to her waist. She can look down pretty decently. Not really too much bobble, but there's a little bit there. And then you've got rotation, but it only goes so far. Now she does have the added benefit, detriment, depending on how you look at it, of having a very, very gaudy and big back piece that we're going to be talking about, which absolutely hinders her articulation even further at the head. So we'll talk about that when we get there. Arms go out at the shoulders, about that far. They rotate, of course. We've got our single jointed rotating elbow. You've got forearm swivel because of the construction of the figures. You've got your hinges, you've got your rotation at the wrist, normal stuff there. Now, being a 2.0 figure, she does have this diaphragm cut, which goes back quite a bit, honestly. A lot of times this doesn't do a great deal on some figures, and she goes forward a little bit also. Tilt side to side, and it's not necessarily a full swivel, but you can get it to go really, really far. And then there's also a waist twist down here as well. Now this is not necessarily a full twist either because she's sort of socketed in this sort of armor piece that she has at her waist, but it does allow for pretty much as far as you need it to go. I think it's not really a hindrance, I don't think. Legs go out about this far. She does have a lot of stuff on her waist. So she's got the big armor piece, but it's very, very flimsy. Not in a negative way. It's just going to get out of its own way kind of a way. And then she also has soft goods. Legs go forward. They kick backwards pretty much, probably more than you need. We've got our thigh twist. you've got single jointed rotating knees down here. And then down at the ankle, you've got your really nice rocker. I mean, really great rocker there. And then you've got hinges also. And then you can twist that joint. Since it's just a straight peg, you can twist that joint itself also. So she's pretty normal. Like, there's really no surprises here. The only real difference, I think, is that her head is a little bit locked down because of obvious reasons. But her diaphragm cut does seem to be a little bit more functional than usual. Otherwise, though, she's very much par for the course when it comes to a normal 2.0 figure. Visually is where I expect this figure is going to make her greatest impact, though. And it's ultimately down to the fact that she has a very compelling design, a very unique design, and she has a very good color combination here. We have a lot of purple in this line, but she is bringing a lot more purple to this line. So her colors are going to stand out. We've got a lot of exposed vampire skin, which is not all that common either. So she's got a lot of that going for her. And then, of course, we just have the simple fact that she has all this crazy stuff going on. So she has a lot of this unique stuff going on in terms of like things such as the soft goods, which are wired. And let's go ahead and get these out of the way, because there's one sort of oddity and maybe annoyance with this. The one thing that I'm confused about so far. So we've got like the skirt piece, which has this really like royal purple color. So it's wired all the way around. Just wraps around her back, and then she's got like the little tabard kind of piece that hangs down. This, maybe she use it to show a little motion, a little windswept action, but this is all wired. And then you've got this little black sash thing, which it just came sort of floating in the box. It was just sort of cinched around her, but it doesn't really seem to have a home. I'm not exactly sure where it goes. Some of the pictures of it show that it's just sort of sitting under this waist piece, but it doesn't really want to fit there either. Like, nothing really holds it down that I've found yet. It wouldn't be a Legion's figure without sort of not knowing something about one of these figures. So there's always something that's kind of confusing. I don't know exactly what the end game is for this piece, but it just sort of looks like it's supposed to be sort of free flowing and something sort of, just like sort of hanging off of her, and you can sort of see it at any angle. So I've just sort of cinched it around her at this point, and it's fully wired too. It holds, but it is, it's kind of an oddball thing. I'm not exactly sure where it goes. Beyond that, I mean, the soft goods are pretty fantastic though, and I think they look great. This fabric in particular is really nicely done, looks great, feels good, moves really well. But even so, the rest of her design is very unique. Again, lots of exposed skin. We've got this torso piece with this sort of like weave patterning up here at the top, which is really intricate. We've got her crazy, crazy sort of waist guard crotch piece kind of thing with like the vampire sigil on it, all these bones hanging off. And it's like I mentioned, it's super pliable. Not in a bad way, like it's going to get out of its own way kind of thing. So it's going to sort of move with the figure. And I think it looks fantastic. The overall armor design for her is pretty wild and very, very different. Super, super black, too. I can't really stress how deep the black is on this armor. It is very, very, like, midnight, stark black. But then there's these little hits of color to make things pop, such as, like, the belt buckles, the belts themselves, and then the purple for this vampiric head that sort of rests on her waist, sort of belt buckle area. She does have exposed feet, and we've got gripping hands on her. I really was hoping she'd have some sort of like, style posy hands, but we don't get anything like that for her otherwise. Really though, and I don't know that I have to truly spell it out, the focus for this figure is undoubtedly whatever this is going on her head. She has got the craziest looking head sculpt in the line, as far as I'm concerned. This has like a very H.R. Giger xenomorph kind of thing going for it. It very much looks like that. I mean, obviously that's not it, but there is tons and tons of detail up on this headdress. All these sort of like tendrils and almost like snake-like, tons of bones, this big purple spine. And then you've got the little skeleton dude with the scales up top. I mean, it has to be a cumbersome headdress that she is wearing for looks only, right? I mean, surely this is just to get a rise out of someone. And then she's got her hair back here with like these horns sticking out of the back, and then the hair that's done up in 3 braids, which is done specifically to sort of work with the back piece that we're going to talk about here shortly. But the hair has even got purple in it as well. So it fades from this sort of not super midnight black like the rest of the figure, just standard black, to this sort of purple sort of frosted tips down there. But I absolutely love this head sculpt. I thought it was going to be kind of like ridiculous when I finally saw it in hand, but honestly, it's just so ridiculous that it ends up being cool, if that makes any sense. It's crazy. The amount of detail that is crammed into this thing is pretty much off the charts, and just the overall design of it alone is pretty wild. There's a lot to take in, a lot of sculpt, a lot of detail, and it just sort of accentuates her. It makes her look far more evil than if she didn't have it, of course. And then we do have just the rest of the head sculpt. So she's got these huge vampiric ears. She's got the earrings. She's got these sort of tendril-ish braids hanging down off around her head. And then she's got her very vampire-esque skin. A little bit of shading on there, lips, eyes, everything painted really clean and crisp. Again, no pupils for the vampire eyes, which I absolutely love. But she looks very evil. She doesn't have too much of an expression, but I think you can kind of pick up on the fact that she is not a good guy. So I am very, very happy with the overall presentation on this figure. I think she looks tremendous. It's pretty crazy and over the top, but she does look pretty wicked, and she's going to look great standing alongside Illythia and the rest of her faction in particular. Now, as far as accessories goes, this is where she gets even crazier because, well, I mean, just look at all the stuff that's just hanging off her back. So she gets this whole crazy getup, and we've already seen this. If you caught the review I did, or if you own the figure for the PowerCon exclusive Okiatos figure, he has the same back piece, and it came from her first. He just happened to come out before her because of PowerCon. So it is an adapter that plugs into the normal back adapter slot, and she has 4 black skeletal arms, which are newer style arms. So they are 2.0 style arms, but they are also changed up with their design. They are exposed forearms, so you can actually see through the bones on them, which is uncommon. And then we've got style pose hands on 2, gripping hands on the other 2, and again, they are just like super midnight black like the rest of her armor. They are fully articulated arms, so they do rotate in there. I mean, they're just like any other arms. So they have shoulder joints, they have elbow joints, they have wrist, hinge, swivel. They are legitimate arms, so if you wanted to chop her up and cannibalize these parts for something else, you've got 4 skeleton arms if you want to do that. Now, this is also part of the reason why this hair setup is done, because the hair actually runs through a channel in this, and then the other 2 braids run out the other side. This is why this back adapter is shaped so very specifically. It's got a shape specific to have her hair do that. And in doing so, like I mentioned, she does lose what little head articulation she does have pretty much goes away. She can still crook her head to the side a little bit, but if you push it too far, you're going to start to pull that adapter out, and then her arms, whatever this thing is, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be part of her or like some sort of magical item or something, because frankly, she looks great with or without it, so you've got a couple options. It doesn't necessarily hinder her balance either. It's not very heavy, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about posing her around. Just kind of find this sweet spot. I mean, that's pretty simple right there. And then this whole apparatus is done to sort of give her, a little bit more oomph, definitely a little bit more of a presence, but then it's a way for her to hold every single accessory that she has. And I'll say it, every single time it happens, I love when a figure can have all of its stuff on it at any given time. So all of the actual accessories are here. She does not, as a consequence of her design, she does not have pauldrons. So I'll kind of mention that now. You get the whole back thing and then the hair, basically. There's really no room for pauldrons on this figure. And then she comes with some, some other accessories. So we've got the gripping hands on these skeletal arms up here that can hold these sort of curved blades. And we've seen these before a number of times. She can also hold them in her normal hands, of course. And then we've got these scales, which is like part of her motif as a horseman, is the scale idea here. So you've got they look like Bowser turtle shells almost, but they're black with those purple metallic accents, real metal chains, and then they just sort of dangle from those back arms, and then they sort of correspond to her actual weapon. So this is the titular soul spiller. So we've got, from the soul spiller wave. So this is her weapon. It's this, skeletal sort of, I don't know what it is, what it's supposed to be. I mean, it looks like it could be a bow, but it's not. It's kind of gummy, but in a good way. Like, I think that in many ways has made it to be very light, and it's easy to get in and out of her hand too. And it's got the other 2 scales that go along with this whole getup. So this is done up in like a sort of a gunmetal-y color for the handle, and then you've got a metallic purple for this crazy, I don't know what that's supposed to be, some sort of serpentine kind of skeleton thing by the look of it, but this is pretty gnarly. It's a wild looking piece, and she just has such a presence with this. I mean, it's ridiculous, and this is literally everything she comes with. All of it is here, so she can hold on to this, and all of the other stuff can be held by these arms, and then the arms, of course, on her back. You don't have to use those arms. I think she looks great without them, but at the same time, it's pretty undeniable that this is this is a look. Now, the other half to Illythia as a character, as a horseman, is of course the fact that she has a horse. And this horse is still similar to what we've got before. I mean, if you've got Balius, if you've got Aethon, you know what you're getting at a base level, but all of the personality of this particular character, this particular horse is extra and is new. So we've got a different color scheme. We've got a black horse with purple accents. Of course, we've got this fancy saddle here, and then we've got the headdress, and of course the fact that this thing is a skeletal horse. So the head, the actual head of the figure, is a skeleton head. So I think that's pretty wild on its own. There is still a decent amount of articulation to this figure. It's a horse, so of course it's a little bit different. So we've got a head that you can look side to side. You can go up and down. There's just a ball that goes into the neck, and then you've got a peg that attaches to the front of this face. So the face is removable, and you can use these faces on the Equidron style characters, and all of that stuff is swappable in many ways. We've got the neck articulated here. So up and down, side to side. You've got a little bit of swivel. Legs, they go out. You don't really have too much twist here, but there is some. You don't want to twist it too far. Got to hold this thing janky just to do this. You've got your first knee, right? Twist there. And then we've got hoof articulation down here. And then you've got hoof swivel also. That's how you hold a horse to do articulation, right? Then at the back, you've got flared out hips. So the legs can go out. It does help to aid balance really, really well. It's a minor thing, but it does work. And then we've got, what do we got? We've got articulation for the actual hip joint itself. Then we've got the upper thigh will move in and out. You've got not really any twist there just because of the design. And then you've got your knee, which goes that way, and it goes backwards slightly. There is twist there also. And then you've got your hoof articulation down here, which is about the same as the front. So you've got hoof articulation, you've got knee articulation, you've got ankle articulation, all the articulations when it comes to legs, and then you've got your tail, which goes up and down and swivels. Of course, that can allow you to orient it whatever you need. So the horses are, they're pretty well articulated for such a big thing. Certainly they could be more articulated, but at the same time, we've got a very sturdy horse here too, which I think is far more important than having 8 billion joints in it. Being able to stand and support a figure is a whole different aspect of this. So this is a big, nicely articulated horse that is capable of standing very, very easily and support a rider. Visually is where I think this figure truly shines though, and that's usually the case with Legions, but for the horses in particular, I think they have to look better than they need to move, because this thing can move really well, but a lot of times it's probably just going to be standing there with a rider on it or next to it, so it needs to look a lot better. It needs to really look the part. And this looks like a vampire horse to me. I really don't have any issues with it, and it might be edging out Aethon for me right now in terms of favorite. A lot of that has to do with the color scheme and the fact that we've got, a skeleton horse this time. So the overall majority of the figure is the same horse that we've seen, which is not a bad thing. It's just what it is. Black in color, but we do have some paint accents here. There's purple that's down on the lower legs, and that sort of goes with the mane being purple and then the tail being black, fading to purple as well. There's also some purple accents on the saddle setup and all that get up there. And the saddle, of course, is tremendously sculpted, tons of detail, tons of paint. It looks very leathery, so it's got kind of that almost that wet look to it, but it's supposed to mimic leather. You've got working stirrups, you've got places to stow weaponry if you've got other stuff you want to put in there. We've got this big monster, like sort of chest neck piece. I don't really know horse terminology, so we've got this, and it looks tremendous. It's like a falcon or an eagle or something sort of careening out of the chest of this horse. All these big horns and the wings, the sort of vampiric ears coming out of it. It's like a glossy black with a little hint of light purple metallic. It makes some of the details, unfortunately, slightly difficult to make out because of that color scheme, but it's pretty wild and kind of gnarly looking to sit on the front of this horse. Granted, the big draw for this figure, for this horse, is going to be the head sculpt and just the overall design up here, because a lot of this flows into what ties this horse into Illythia. Not just the paint scheme, not just that color scheme, but the overall skeleton aspect, because of course she does have skeletal components. We've got these vampire wings that sit on the bridle with this huge like skeleton that runs down the front. I don't know what that kind of skeleton's supposed to be, but it's pretty gnarly looking, and it goes with her armor. So it looks like that headdress that spine that runs up her headdress. It looks like the spines that run down that waist guard that she has. Not to mention the fact that, well, again, it's a skeleton head. So you've got a very unique thing in comparison to the two horses that we've already gotten so far that are, one is a horse. The other one is a demon horse. This is a skeleton horse. So this one has a lot of extra stuff going for it, just by virtue of the fact that it has this crazy getup on its face and chest, and then you've got the actual skeleton horse. So it's not just a vampire's horse that she owns. It happens to be undead also, which I think makes it look infinitely cooler. The paint job, the sculpt, I mean, all of it's tremendous. It's a big, beefy, heavy toy, but it's not so big that it can't support itself with a rider. And again, I just like the fact that it has enough articulation to do its job, but it looks even cooler than it moves. And it's just an awesome figure. If you're into horses for Legions, there's a lot of potential here to make this one into something a lot different if you want to customize it or cannibalize it for parts. But at the same time, black skeleton horse is going to look pretty rad on your shelf too. So yeah, overall, it's been a really long time since I made the order for these two, but I would say the wait has been worth it. A lot of that has come from the enjoyment of going back and figuring out all the stuff that I'd forgotten about with these two. Because honestly, there's a lot about these that I just plain forgot about because it's just been so long. I forgot about this or that, and it's like, oh, this is a great little thing Illythia has, or the horse has all of these little details that I forgot about. But they are, at the end of the day, quality Mythic Legions figures, so you kind of know what you're getting into. If you're a big fan of this line, these are two that I would definitely not even consider passing up. Illythia is, of course, a huge component of the overall lore. If you're into the lore aspect of Legions, she is one of the titular horsemen. You can't not have her. She just also happens to look amazing and ridiculously crazy. And then PHOBUS is an awesome horse with a lot of new details, a lot of changes to an established formula that works really well for this line. But at the end of the day, Vampire Queen and Skeleton Vampire Horse is a hard combo to pass up. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legions Illythia Wave, Illythia, and PHOBUS. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.